James Madison stated in the Federalist Papers, liberty is to faction what air is to fire, an element without which it instantly expires. But it could not be less folly, he states, to abolish liberty, which is essential to political life, because it nourishes faction, than it would be to wish the annihilation of air, which is essential to animal life, because it imparts to fire its destructive agency. In other words, Madison is clearly saying there can be no freedom without difference. Therefore, cultural differences, rather than being the enemy of a free society, according to Madison, are actually its friends. And without the coexistence of these cultural differences, Malicious suggests that the society will cease to be free. Liberty, he says, is to faction what air is to fire, an element without which it instantly expires. Today, this notion of liberty as inclusive and as tolerant of different views is under siege by those who claim to be in continuity with the founding fathers. They are, however, in my opinion, simply constitutional revisionists still fighting the anti-federalist debates of the 18th century. The problem is, however, that Americans can ill afford, in this present time, a repeat of the never-ending debate between the liberals and the conservatives. For the issue of equal access is no longer up for debate. It will not be silenced by a besieged executive, judicial, and congressional check and balance system controlled by the rich and the powerful, while pretending to provide true democratic representation and equal opportunity for all. Those days are over. The imperative for all who love liberty today is to call for more economic inclusion. We can no longer hide or ignore the fact of rampant disproportionality in this country. We can no longer hide behind our blind platitudes about America, the beautiful, while people sleep on the streets, children are left to fend for themselves, young inner city men and women without a chance to live march endlessly off to death camps that we call prisons. For example, 47.5% of the entire prison population of this country are African American, while 1/2 of the male prison population are African American. This is in the light of the fact that African Americans are only 12% of the population. At the core of the issue of equal access is ultimately the question of capacity. For equal access should mean equal capacity, unless you throw into the equation the issue of diminished capacity. about 2 years ago, after giving a speech in defense of gay rights, after marching through Main Street, Seattle, at the front of a gay rights march. It was not one of those gay rights marches where you had the upper middle income gays marching. You had a different. It was one of those rowdy gay marches where it was being led by a gentleman dressed in full regalia, chanting as he went, "Long live Queens." He didn't mean Queens, New York. Well, I marched in the front of that march. And as I marched down through the long, the tall buildings of stately Seattle, I could see on the faces of the white African American people who stood on the sidewalks, shocked. I believe that the shock that I would have was that those who marched in suits and ties, who were straight, would have the gall to lead such a march through the intersection of downtown Seattle. Well, 4 days later, the church I pastored was completely gutted in 10 minutes by fire. The official verdict was it was electrical. However, the consequences was to take an already poor congregation, force it to concentrate its energies not on economic development, not on equal opportunity for all Americans, but on building another building. Our energies, already stretched, were completely taxed. We're still struggling, 2.5 years later, to raise the money, to get permits, to build this church. The banks have been very indifferent. The struggle to rebuild, punishing for everyone involved. But we continue, in spite of our forced diminished capacity, as poor people before us have continued to build and rebuild and rebuild and rebuild if necessary. Statement about our existence. For no other reason than to have something left behind to document the fact that we were here. That's what churches do for African American people. They document the presence of an otherwise ignored people. This is one glaring example, along with over 120, more than 120 church fires across this country, which are also serving as examples of forced, diminished capacity. It is therefore the fact of forced diminished capacity that has fueled the present surge of discontent, a coming together of people that now creates the possibility for a much needed new era of social unrest. Noam Chomsky writes in his book, Deterring Democracy, we should bear in mind that the right to freedom of speech in the United States was not established by the First Amendment to the Constitution, but only through dedicated efforts over a long period by the labor movement, the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement of the 1960s, and other popular forces. Again, we look at James Madison, who said, parchment barriers will never suffice to prevent tyranny. Rights are not established by words, he says. but won and sustained by struggle. The challenge before us today is to engage the persistent presence of unequal access. We must first do this by working together to create an environment of freedom, that will liberate us from the tyranny of our present system of social and economic apartheid, a system maintenance by the monopoly of race and privilege, a system which preserves itself by feeding on our innate apprehensions about our differences, a system that teaches us about a world where nothing is necessarily interrelated. It makes us feel that we can actually be islands unto ourselves. However, Jeremy Rifkin reminds us that we must view reality as an integrated system. He states, this self-correcting circularity blurs the distinction between cause and effect. We must work together to create such a system, resisting the temptation to choose between the manipulated choices of the 20th century. We must understand that it is not a question of either or, but what works for the people. For as Howard Zinn writes, stability and order are not the only desirable conditions of social life. There is also justice, meaning the fair treatment of all human beings, the equal right of all people to be free and to have prosperity. The answer is given, he says, in democratic theory at its best. In the words of Jefferson and his colleagues in the Declaration of Independence, law is only the means. Government is only a means. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, these ought to be our ends. And whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government. End of quote. Ironically, today, as in the beginning of America, the most vocal enemy against this kind of partnership for equal access are the churches. For just as the church during slavery used its privilege to defend the indefensible, today it seeks to do the same. This religious zealotry can be vividly seen in the abortion clinic murders, which the Republicans and which the church never says anything about, and the rash of African American church bombings that now grip our nation. I recently visited Chicago. There I met a young African American minister from Macomb, Mississippi. His church burned down on Saturday night. He's a young man, full of energy and zeal. He only had 30 members. He had just started a school in his church. As we sat and talked, he told me that he got up Sunday morning, drive to the rural area where his church was. When he got there, he was gone. As he sat there, other members began to drive up, one by one. Horror began to grip their faces. One of the things that he shared with me, no policeman called him, no fire official called him. They just left him to drive that morning the distance to their church to find the wreckage. One of the most revealing things he said to me, we talked, was that even today in Mississippi, you simply know what you can do, what you can say. You simply know what you can't do, what you can't say. You just know it. It does not matter to me whether Ralph Reed or Pat Robinson are actually pulling the triggers or setting the fires. There can be little doubting the fact that their preaching of intolerance and the need to politically force-feed Christian values has played a role in arousing the maniacal religious fervor of those who would play God in this country. For they have planted the seeds of intolerance. They have watered them. They have done this by using the poor people's money obtained by exchanging televised blessings for monthly payment schedules. Money which is then laundered to feed the dragon of right-wing extremism which seeks to hold hostage our political system. They have truly become America's Ayatollahs. Their world is a world where gays are outlawed and back in the closet. Women are back in the kitchen and having abortions in alleys. And African Americans act like Uncle Ben, the white-haired, elderly African American on the 700 Club. Uncle Ben just laughs and bows his approval to the pompous, arrogant, self-righteous pronouncement of Master Robinson. Buffalo Bob Robinson and Howdy Doody Reed have charted the course for the storm of religious intolerance now sweeping across this country. They have helped to turn religion into a den of thieves, a place where immoral politicians like Newt Gingrich or criminals like Oliver North can dare to point their corrupt fingers of accusation at those they deem un-American. Whether it is innocent welfare mothers struggling to raise their children or gay men and women fighting for equal rights. Whether it is people of color seeking opportunity by crossing our borders or inner-city residents demanding their fair share. These self-styled holy men have left none of them feeling safe in America in the wake of their religious blitzkrieg. And now, we know, or at least I know, why Reagan traded arms to the Ayatollah. It has something to do with birds of a feather flocking together. It is in addressing precisely this kind of right-wing helter-skelter that the civil rights movement was so successful. For as Martin so eloquently put it, the determination of the Negro American to win freedom from every form of oppression springs from the same profound longing for freedom that motivates oppressed people all over the world. He goes on to say, privileged groups rarely give up their privileges without strong resistance, but when oppressed people rise up against oppression, there is no stopping point short of full freedom. When Martin spoke these words, the struggle of the African American people in America was the center of the world for all nonviolent struggle for human self-determination. It was to this magnetic field of nonviolent action for justice that all other similar struggles were drawn, giving birth to an explosion of free expression that continues even today to rock the world. We must now return to what worked. We must return to an integrated system of consolidated strategic plan. For during the civil rights era, integration was not just the goal for people, It was the methodology for struggle. The integration of people without the integration of concerns and of methodology is no integration at all. It is what presently exists in this country, having the effect of creating the Clarence Thomas syndrome, a belief that somehow the struggle of one man excuses continued indifference toward the thousands left behind. For example, Clarence Thomas cannot be understood outside of his complete capitulation to the demands of the rich and the powerful population, demonstrated by his virtual desertion of the bridge that brought him over. Thomas became turbid and now despises Kunta Kinte. But Kunta Kinte still lives and is now demanding economic justice. Therefore, it seems to me that the key to creating an environment for equal access must begin by awakening those now trapped by poverty to their collective power. Poverty can no longer be for us an unsolvable problem and the poor dispensable commodity. Solutions to poverty must become opportunities, and poor people must be seen as those who can control that world of opportunity. The organization, the Black Dollar Days Task Force, our organization is committed to this struggle. Michael E. Porter at Harvard University School states, my ongoing research at Harvard University Business School identifies 4 main advantages of the inner city: strategic location, local market demand, integration with regional clusters, and human resources. This can be interpreted to mean that the poor are already in position to change the destiny of things if they're ever awakened to their collective power. Let's take first the issue of developing human resources. Like Martin, our plan must involve what he calls creative tension. This kind of tension is created today non-violently only around the issue of the control of money. Poor people are not poor because they have no money, but because they don't control their money. Therefore, we must create institutions controlled by the poor that control the distribution of the money that belongs to the poor. The freedom riders of the 21st century will be those who enter into both profit and non-profit partnership with these new collective actions, creating the means to both economically protest by raiding the stocks of outlaw corporations and to provide economic alternatives to corporate indifference by creating inner city businesses controlled by the inner city people themselves. We seek to do this in the task force by replacing marching feet with marching dollars, which form an endowment fund controlled by the people, with interest dollars being used to take care of the people's needs and endowment dollars being used to leverage on behalf of the people's interests, as well as creating a way station where self-awareness and assessment go hand in hand with job and career training. Also, monthly job support groups meet to both encourage each other and to consolidate their collective power, with caseworkers taking a backseat to group accountability and responsibility for itself. Secondly, to Porter's point about strategic location, it is vital to speed up the mobilization of human resources in order to circumvent the rise of gentrification of our inner city corridors. Poor people are now positioned to control, by their very presence alone, most of our inner city. We must give to them the means. It is urgent that we give them the means to buy property and control investment opportunities through for-profit and non-profit partnerships, which guarantee both vested interests and jobs. For it is my belief that the ultimate solution to to a global society is the creation of small, interrelated communities tied together by their self-contained economic systems that create an inevitable ocean controlled by community-based tributaries of money. It is these self-contained economic systems that come together to create the regional clusters that Porter talks about. We, the members of the human family, must understand that we can no longer afford the luxury of independent agendas as a people. We must act as one. The time has come for the foot bones of unified action to connect with the leg bones of perpetual organizing. We must walk together. We must learn how to act as one body. We must allow the hip bone of homosexuality and sexual freedom to unite with the backbone of worker rights and equal opportunity. We must stop our bickering, stop our classism, stop our contextual, myopic understandings of reality, and act as one. We must walk together. We must walk together and connect the backbone of worker rights and equal opportunity to the shoulder bone of corporate burden bearing. We must stand, fight, organize, work together, build businesses together. We must act as one. Let now the neck bone of mutual support connect us all to the head bone of justice for all. And then we can march together, as Martin called upon us to do, play together, sing together, stay together. This is the reality that must fuel our 21st century passion. Therefore, let the fires now burn away the defiant prejudices of the ages. We must do this for the sake of our future and that of our children. Let these fires of righteous action meet in the firestone, the fires of hatred and indifference that now rage against the people of America and of the world. And in their coming together, create an end, a final end to the destruction and a new beginning for freedom and justice for all. Thank you.
Feeling challenged yet? I think now it should be perfectly clear to all of you why we asked Dr. Jeffrey to kick us off this morning, get us started, and why he can energize, and it should be obvious also from his courageous stance that he voiced this morning why he is the recipient of the Mayor Rustin Award 2 years ago from the Northwest Coalition. We thank you very, very much, Pastor. Thank you very much. That little jingling you hear is my phone, and it's not a problem. So we'll just wait. You're more important than my phone right now. I want to mention and thank Merritt Long and the Washington Human Rights Commission for their financial support, contribution to the conference, and especially for their financial support to bring Pastor Jeffrey here this morning. And so we thank them very much. I ask you to join me.
Good evening. To get your attention, we're going to begin. Take a minute to sit down, settle down for our keynote speech. I want you to all know I'm on my tiptoes. If I can stand on my tiptoes all night, you can be quiet. Whoa. Okay, let's find out who's here first. Give everybody a minute to settle down. First of all, if you've noticed, we have quite a few young people with us. Could we maybe get them to stand up and give them a hand? A lot of them have been with us since Friday, have really hung in there and added a lot to our conference and to the workshops, I've heard. Let's see, who's here from Oregon? Uh-oh. Who's here from Washington? How about Montana? Idaho? Wyoming? You get an A for effort. How about Colorado? You'll probably win next year. Did we miss anybody? How about California? Yeah, I thought so. Alaska? Delaware? Okay, Delaware. How about New York? Yeah, somebody from New York. Kansas City? Lenny? Okay. Great to have you all here. This is our 10th annual conference. Welcome all. Thank you for your patience. We're going to start the program now. We're going to give some awards to some very special people. To start that off, I'm proud to introduce Eric Ward, who's the Associate Director of the Coalition, who's going to present the first award.
Good evening, everyone. Each year since 1987, the Northwest Coalition Against Malicious Harassment has presented the Bayard Rustin Civil Rights Award to an outstanding leader in the field of human rights. The award is presented in the memory of Bayard Rustin, a nationally prominent civil rights leader who died just several months after the Northwest Coalition was formed in 1987. Bayard Rustin, born in 1912, life spanned a turbulent and remarkable era of civil rights in the United States. In 1947, Rustin took part in the first freedom ride from Virginia to Kentucky. On 6 occasions in 3 states, members of the group were arrested. Bayard Rustin wrote, "Freedom can be built only on a democratic structure in which each person is treated with dignity, and that the maintenance and the defense of those values require unremitting vigilance. For if not us, who? And if not now, when?" In regards to those words that Bayard Rustin wrote, something comes to mind of a person who lives those thoughts. In my 8 years of organizing against the far right in the Northwest, this person has been a constant source of inspiration and support. I remember when I first started doing this work, in fact, stumbling around, getting organizational names wrong, the names of figures in the far right. This was the person who helped me to reach and to strive beyond simple analysis and to work hard, in fact, to try to understand the underlying issues involved in the far right in the United States. Leonard Zeskin is the president of the Institute for Research and Education on Human Rights, the author of numerous background reports, articles, and publications. Zeskin is considered one of the foremost experts on hate group activity nationally and internationally. Leonard Zeskin was also the recipient of the Columbia University School of Journalism's prestigious Paul Tobinkin Award for his contribution to a series of articles on the far right for the Washington Spokesman Review. Recent articles have appeared in Rolling Stone and The Village Voice. From 1987 to 1994, Leonard Zeskin served as the research director of the Center for Democratic Renewal and authored several monographs which have shaped our work in combating bigotry in the Northwest. These works include Christian Identity, a theological justification for racist and anti-Semitic violence, which was published by the National Council of Churches of Christ in the USA. In addition to these many tasks, Leonard Zeskin has served as a consultant for a wide variety of organizations and individuals, from the American Jewish Committee, British Television, and the Coalition for Human Dignity, to name a few. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored that the Northwest Coalition Against Malicious Harassment is proud to present the Baird Rustin Award to Leonard Zeskin in recognition of his courageous dedication to civil rights.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Bill and Jeanette and everybody from the Northwest Coalition. This is a very nice award. I've seen other people get it, and I know it means something, and I'm very honored and a little flabbergasted. And for those of you who know me, know that I'm not short of words. And tonight I'm short of words. I'm supposed to say something now, they said. I'll say this, that I was very honored to be part of the process that pulled this organization together. It was a much smaller group in the beginning than it is tonight. I think that's proof of the dedication of the board and staff of the Northwest Coalition. It shows that they take their work seriously and have built a very strong and magnificent organization that's a real true coalition. I've also been honored to be able to work with them in cities and towns all over the Northwest. Some of my more memorable occasions have been in Pocatello, Idaho, in Knoxon, Montana, before John Truckman became famous, in Billings, Spokane, Seattle, Eugene, Boise. It's been an important part of my life to be able to come up here and from Kansas City, where I live, and be part of this, which is really a very big and important human rights movement that I think is having an impact nationally on the human rights movement in this country. So I'm very honored. I can't really say anything more. Just thank you very much.
In my zeal to get everybody seated, I'm reminded I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Jeanette Pius-Spinoza. I'll be your MC tonight, and I'm president of the coalition. It's now my pleasure to introduce the very special Bill Wasmuth, director of the coalition, who will talk to us about the next award.
About 2 years ago, the Northwest lost a very important person who was a champion for human rights, within the law enforcement community and within the broader community as well. Larry Broadbent was undersheriff of Kootenai County during the 80s and was a strong force against the Aryan nations, became recognized as an expert on that issue, and did trainings for law enforcement around the country. He was also a champion in terms of the community at large. He was on the board of directors of the Kootenai County Task Force. He was on the board of directors of the Northwest Coalition Against Malicious Harassment. When Larry Broadbent passed away about 2 years ago, the board of directors of the Northwest Coalition determined that they wanted to establish an award in his memory and in his honor, and have established the award that we want to present for the first time tonight in memory of Larry Broadbent, and to honor a member of the criminal justice system in the Northwest who has likewise shown great courage, great sensitivity to human rights, and great respect for their role in the criminal justice system. And here to present that award is Susan DeCamp from the Montana Association of Churches.
Thank you very much. When the Northwest Coalition asked me to present this award to Nicholas Murnion, Garfield County Attorney in Montana, I was so excited because you made a wonderful choice. Nick Murnion, as Garfield County Attorney, has provided an outstanding example, much in the same tradition as Larry Broadbent. And as I listened to Bill describe Larry Broadbent, I thought, wow, it sounds just like Nick. Nick is, Garfield County is a county that's about the size of a lot of states I can think of. It's huge. And they have one part-time county attorney, and they have one sheriff. When the Freemen took over the county courthouse, it was up to Nick and that county sheriff to tell the Freemen to leave. And when the Freemen broke the law, it was Nick who prosecuted them. Nick took it upon himself to read those Freemen documents, to research the movement, to research Christian identity, and by the time the Montana Human Rights Network contacted Nick to offer their assistance, he was already an expert. It was Nick who kept the pressure on federal law enforcement to come in and do something about the Freemen, and to the tremendous relief of the residents and the neighbors of the Freemen in Jordan. And he himself was the target of many threats, intimidation. There was a bounty placed on his head, dead or alive, by the Freemen. But in Nick's own words, he has a little trouble standing down. So in the very best tradition of the Western frontier, Nicholas Murnion is a true hero. And I'm so delighted, particularly as a Montanan, that the Northwest Coalition has chosen to honor our Garfield County attorney. And I'm so sorry he couldn't be here tonight, but that's just like Nick. So thank you very, very much.